Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Around the Table GTA. We're trying that 52-week challenge that I was talking about, and things have been spicing up. Well, not really, it's just been really cold. We're dealing with the polar vortex right now, and I've just been in thought a couple of changes. It's been a shaky week so far, but we are trying to keep that positive mindset and work through things accordingly. This episode is going to be talking about just age and change. It's a topic that we do cover on and on, but recently I've been thinking about certain stuff and just the energy that I want to put into stuff. It's rough for some things where I just feel like I'm aging out of some hobbies, right? Some of the things that I did enjoy or do enjoy or I thought I enjoyed I don't enjoy as much, right? And I don't know if it's age. I don't know if it's the type of games I'm playing, but there's certain stuff that I don't even want to bother to spend the time. And it's funny because anytime I'm dealing with older people, they're not really willing to learn. And I think maybe it's just an age thing where, let's say, there could be a game that's coming out and it seems exciting, but as soon as I put my pause on it, I'm just like, this is a lot of work. Oh, I don't want to learn all of these concepts. And it's kind of strange because if you know any gamer, when you were younger, you wanted to be a little bit older so that you could buy all of these games and you wouldn't have to wait for your birthday or times when you did well in school for your parents to kind of reward you if you're on the poorer side. Or if you did have the games all the time, you just wish that you could play all the time. So you'd want to be older or have your own place or thing so that nobody could tell you what to do. But as you get older, you start getting money and buying the things that you want. But after a while, you don't have the time to enjoy it. And it's insane, right? It's just how you're driven to do other things. And it's not really insane. It's just that priorities. You get older and you realize that certain things are priorities, whether it's video games, whether it's sports, whether it's anything that you kind of enjoy. You have to put it in a moderation, unless somehow you've put your hobby into your workforce, right? Like, let's say you enjoy hacking and you become like a good hacker or you're even a bad hacker or hacker for hire, right? Or let's say that you were in the industry for video games and maybe you host events, or if you work at a game store, you'll be able to deal with that. Or let's say you're into cards and you work at a card shop or you open up your own business or you have even like a cafe of some sort, you'll be able to enjoy it a little bit more or maybe spend more time with it. But at the same time, it's like there's so many other things that you can be gunning for, focusing on, and doing to improve your life. Like, I remember talking to my friends about like pro gaming, for example. Like, if that was around when we were younger, maybe one of us would be up there, right? Even when I used to work at Metro, I had a coworker whose little brother was like playing in some type of Halo League or Call of Duty League. He was just playing some fighting game and he got, or shooter, and he got sponsored. And it was like some 10-year-old kid. I don't know where he's at now just because I don't talk to that person anymore. I don't work with them anymore. And we're more of like work colleagues. We talked at work and that was about it. So I don't know where that went. But the fact that he was getting sponsored and getting paid to go to events, it's a dream for the average gamer, or even if you do play sports and you have a dream. Like, my cousin always wanted to play in a big league and he's out in Europe playing ball, right? He just kept playing, never gave up, right? I have a couple episodes where I talk about friends that I have or family that I have that never gave up on their dream and they just kept that persistence, and they've got to where they wanted to be, or they're not even at where they want to be, but they're happy because they're doing what they love. And it's hard because you age out of things that you think that you love, and then if it's like a big part of your life, you just have like this gaping hole, and what are you gonna do to fill that time and that space? I know for me, I still enjoy video games for the most part, but in general, I'm a person that likes competitive things, so I could get into a majority of things that are competitive, especially if I think that I can do well or even improve, right? That's why I play toxic games like League of Legends. Why? Because whether your team is good or not, you can make that big difference. And it is a competitive game. You could see your score, you could see how you've done. And I still think that I have what it takes to do pretty well in a bunch of games, right? I like card games. It's a lot of different things to be competitive. And you know I did mention it, basketball's around the corner, 2 weeks, and then it's ball season, so maybe more of my topics will be about athleticism or technique versus raw skill, and underdog versus the big champs, or even how a small difference a person can make when these things happen. And this is the thing about my podcast. Like sometimes I have a little bit of an idea what I want to talk about, but a lot of it's off the top of the dome. And I think that's what might keep people still interested. But at the same time, I think it can limit things, especially if I'm not paying attention to what's being talked about. Going back to like current events, I want to talk about certain current events. Like I saw this thing on Twitter recently, Twitter X, whatever you want to call it now. It's insane. Where like, well, before that, I saw this quote where it says like, I have to find it because I don't want to misquote it. It's pretty decent. I'm gonna look for it while I do talk about this. But there was this case of this dude just being creepy and going through a drive-through and exposing himself. I'm trying to find this to make this YouTube friendly, right? He was exposing himself, and he ended up just ending it all because he was embarrassed about it. But it's just like, being online chronically can really mess up your brain and put you in a situation, right? Like the guy left his family behind. And what's so strange with the internet as well too is just that like people has made his experience a hashtag, and people are joking about it. And it's kind of messed up how we kind of get desensitized when we see silly stuff online, and we comment on it like we were there, or we couldn't be in a weird situation where we'd be very judged, right? I think internet tomfoolery, I want to use that term, has just made people kind of just lack empathy in some senses, right? The quote was, "The dildo of consequences rarely arrives lubed," right? The reason why I wanted to talk about stuff like that is sometimes people just do silly things, and it's going back to kind of like the internet stuff where a lot of people don't take accountability for some of the crazy stuff that happens, or their logic is so flawed. So when they get hit with a dose of reality, you know, it rarely arrives lubed, because it's just like, what did you think was gonna happen? Or it's like when you see crime sometimes where people just get brazen with the crimes, or they don't even think about covering themselves, and then they get into a situation and it's like, oh yeah, it's the end of your life. You're going to jail, and there's no parole. What are we doing with our lives, right? And I think we also age into hobbies as well. Recently, I don't know if I think I no, I did talk about this where I was doing a elementary school reunion, and I ended up like resparking the chat with Happy New Year and some happy birthdays because some people had um, early birthdays in the year, and we're talking about different stuff. And it's funny how like people remember different things, right? Like I completely forgot that my elementary school had a crochet club, and we're talking about all of these different experiences and different characters of people, different teachers, and it's nice to see how you grow into things or grow out of things. Like for me, I was a pretty emotional child. Let's just say that. And there was a time where my anger was not kept in check. But oddly enough, I joined the chess club. And originally, I joined it so I could get out of detention because I get into detention a lot for fighting and just being violent and a menace to society. But I joined the chess club, and it was one of the things that made me start thinking in another way where, you know, you have to have patience. You have to try to predict your opponent. You might have your whole game plan, but your opponent will also have a game plan too. How do you stick to your game plan when your pieces get taken or you make a misstep and everything falls apart? Chess really helped me center myself and remind me of who I was, at least at the time. And I know it's just like, wow, you know, you were in chess club when you're in grade four. Like, what do you mean who you were, right? But they do say that people who have like weird or rough upbringings mature a lot faster. And I could say that for sure at that age, I was thinking about a lot of different things than what the average fourth grader was thinking about. But that's a topic for another day. But I never really aged out of chess. I just started running out of opponents, and it was a nice thing. Like going back to aging out of hobbies, like we were talking about certain things too, where there's certain things after a certain age you can't be doing it as good as you can, right? There's this one game that I do enjoy, but it's hard to find a machine right now. It's called DDR for those who are old enough to know, or the people who've experienced it. It's a great game. It's a fun game. Music, dancing, quote unquote dancing, because you're just moving around. You're taking steps, and like there's the stompers and stuff like that. But overall, it's a rhythm game that you move your body, you enjoy the music and everything too. But as as you get older, you know, you just feel slower, or you know, it affects your knees or your hips or whatever, and it's so strange. Just going back to the aging thing, this is turning from aging out of hobbies to just aging in general. I was trolling the elementary school chat, and people were just talking about, oh, I feel old and stuff. I'm like, oh, you guys feel old? I, for the most part, don't feel old, and I still think it's just from being active and partially just viewing life differently. Also, attacking life differently as well. A lot of people are saying, oh, you know, it's like when you hit this age, you're not gonna be able to do A, B, and C. No, it's just because you used to be active, you used to be outside, you used to run around, play basketball, soccer, football, whatever, get sunlight, and now you've grown older, you have your money, you're enjoying your toys without any regulation. Then you wonder why your back hurts, or you have the shrimp arch because you're hunching over your computer daily without any physical exercise, and you've gained like 40 pounds, and you're like, yeah, of course your knee's gonna hurt, of course your back's gonna hurt, of course you're gonna feel sluggish and everything. You're not being active, right? Being active helps you enjoy your hobbies, right? Sometimes you gotta break whatever cycle you've put yourself in. Sometimes you just get into a rut, not even a rut, you just in a routine, and you're like, why did I start doing this in the first place, right? But either way, it's good to make sure that you do have hobbies, things to do. I was talking to someone, and they told me that they don't do anything outside of work. they just sleep and do some other things that I'm not going to share because it's exposing the person, right? But I was telling them, I'm like, you have to live your life. How are you going to enjoy your life if you don't do anything, especially if you look tired all the time? It's insane. But we get into these mindsets, or we see something and we think that we resonate with it so hard that it's what we need to do next in life, and we forget why we started it in the first place. uh, I think I'm gonna start journaling again, just because I was doing it partially during the pandemic, and I had some pretty good stuff in there, and then I just stopped. It's hard for me to sit down and do stuff like that, but it's very beneficial, and I would say that you guys should check it out. So, anyways, this episode was kind of eh, I guess, but we're pushing into doing more things more often. Hopefully, something exciting does happen soon. I'll definitely have the basketball stories. Recently, all the teams have been talking shit, and people have been saying stuff that I said, or assuming or putting me in a role that I never uttered a word of, and it's just insane. And now uh, people are mad and upset, not necessarily about me, but it's definitely going to make the games a little bit more hectic. Uh, but if you are in my general area, you could DM me and you could come check out some of the games. I think they'll be fun, and it's a nice way to just enjoy yourself, right? Sometimes you have to add yourself into something, and you'll never know if you might like it or not, right? Like I said, originally for me, I do enjoy chess. I haven't played in a while, right? But I would have never joined chess initially if I didn't know that it would get me out of detention, right? Like, I think that's one of the like I wouldn't say it's the most diabolical thing I've done at that age, but like I was thinking about stuff like that as a fourth grader, so you could only imagine how many things that I may or may have not gotten into trouble with or gotten myself into. But those are all for later episodes, or even like a paywalled episodes, because so there's certain stuff that you can't beat out of a person, right? But at a certain price, maybe, right? But I think you guys seen that meme where it's like, oh, not even Batman could beat that shit out of me, because people talk a little bit too much on the internet. I think most of the things that I've shared hasn't been anything crazy, or like if you had a talk with me, you'd hear about it, or if you talked about a certain topic, it somehow snowball into one of these areas. But enough rambling from me. I'm going to end this here. Make sure you do keep some hobbies, right? No one likes a boring person. And sometimes you need time for yourself, and having a hobby does help you unwind. But if you're growing out of your hobby, you have to stop and think, why did I start doing this in the first place? And what's the reason why I don't like it anymore, right? Just to do a short story before I get out of this, like a lot of people, they see me, they think, oh, I don't do this, or I don't do that, or they couldn't imagine me doing this, right? But for me, a lot of sports I just stopped playing, mainly because the people that I associated with sports, I didn't really associate it with them anymore, and I ended up hanging out with a lot more introverted people, right? So a lot of my interest in sports dwindled, not in the fact that I wouldn't compete in sports. It's just that the general person that was around me wasn't interested in that. So that kind of died down. The only thing physical that stayed with me is running. I mentioned in older episodes, running helps clear my mind. I'm one of those quote unquote crazy people. I just enjoy running, and cycling as well, right? But if someone wants to play soccer or football, American football, you know, basketball, anything like that, I'm quick to jump on it, right? But I lost as much interest where I stopped watching games because it just reminded me of the times that I could have been playing or could have played with other people. And I know there's leagues and everything too, but at this time, I'm not willing to invest in something like that. So just remember, sometimes when you do age out of hobbies, it's not your age, but it's what and who you choose to hang around. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed this episode. Like I said, it's kind of odd, but hopefully, it did something. Take care.